Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got a double header because it's going to be an early impression on a vintage fragrance that I got a 4 ml mini of, and I'm in the stage currently of trying to hunt a bottle down because it is full bottle worthy for me. Interestingly enough, this is one that nobody talks about. And when I say nobody, I mean nobody. In fact, most people I brought it up to today have never heard of it. It is a true hidden gem, and it's a honey-based scent, spicy, resinous honey. And you guys know, honey is my favorite type of fragrance, or one of my favorite types of fragrance. I love leather, and I love honey-based scents. And this is one from the 80s, interestingly enough. It came out in 1987, okay? So it came out a couple years after some very popular and famous honey fragrances, which we will talk about soon. But the fragrance is by the House of Pacoma, P-A-C-O-M-A, which I've never tried anything else from this house before. And this is called Gatsby. This is what the bottle looked like. And I love how in the old days they used to actually give you a mini of the bottle. That is good stuff. I really love this. And, I mean, this is literally what the bottle looks like, except in the real bottle, this line right here is silver. So, like, the cap is silver, and the line is silver. And this is good stuff. I'll tell you that right now. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. But before we get into this, we're going to do an unboxing. And so, I don't know actually what's in these boxes because I forgot which one's which. So, this is going to be a little bit of a surprise for me, too. So, let me just open these up. I know I made some purchases lately. And let's see what we bought. What is this? It's a mystery. Oh, I know what this is. Okay, this is good. This is very good. For all you vintage lovers out there, by the way, this fell into my lap. Actually, it was double the price, and the guy put like 50 bucks off on it, and I offered him like 50 bucks less because I've been watching this for about a year, and he never sold it. And he was like, yeah, fine, screw it. Go ahead, take it. Let me show you how it comes first. I think you guys will really enjoy this one. I hope the fragrances are still good. I really do. This is an old scent. Okay, so first of all, look at the packaging. And speaking of, real quick, before I get into this, yesterday I reviewed Eros by Versace, a fragrance that's 10 years old, and to me is the new age wave of fragrances. You know, Versace, Sauvage, Bleu de Chanel, all the shit I hate, the shit I really hate. And most people agreed with my take on the fragrance. Well, one guy was like, you have to try a vintage bottle of Eros. And I'm like, mate, I don't think you understand the type of vintage that I like. Vintage Eros is not what I'm talking about when we're talking about vintage fragrances here. This is what we're talking about when I'm talking about vintage fragrances. Look how they used to come. Look at this leather. This leather, okay, actually feels like it would probably be worth more than the money I paid for the entire set. This feels like very high quality leather. And, I mean, look at the detail. Look at the detail on the leather. This is how it actually came. This was a travel set. It smells like old leather. You know that, oh God. You know, if your father ever had like a leather shaving kit that sat in the bathroom for a long time, or it just has that old, you know, leather smell, like, or if your dad had one of those like vintage leather, I know what I'm thinking of. You know those suit holders that was like a leather, it was like a long leather bag, so to speak, that you could put the suits and shirts and dress pants inside, so when you traveled, it would keep the, you know, it would keep them from getting dirty or ripped or something like that. And it was expensive, thick leather, and you used to be able to buy them from like American Standard and stuff like that. That's what this leather smells like. So look at this. Let me show you this. This is a vintage bottle, a vintage set, actually, of Monsieur Lanvin with the soap and the aftershave. Okay, so this one's the EDT, the one that has a little bit out of it. So let's open this up, shall we? Look at that. Monsieur Lanvin. Please be good. Please be good. Please be good. Holy shit, it's still sealed. This must be just evaporation. This has to still be good. It smells good from the atomizer. So, Monsieur Lanvin, I was very, very taken with. I have a video on my channel, actually, an entire early impression. Moudasir sent me a sample, and I was shocked by the beauty of Monsieur Lanvin. It had this animalic civet in the base, so it kind of opens up in the same realm of, you know, what you would expect from something like Eau Sauvage, okay, from 66. Eau Sauvage came out 3 years after this, by the way. So Eau Sauvage from 66, or think about something like Pour Monsieur from Chanel, which came out a couple years before this, okay? So this is kind of sandwiched between two all-time masculine classics. And when I tested Monsieur Lanvin, I was instantly smitten by it, okay? Because it has this animalic, leathery civet dry down. So it opens up very herbal and lemony and bergamot and, you know, very citrusy cologne style. Excuse me, like you would expect from a 1960s fragrance. But it dries, okay? It dries down. Oh, look at this. This is the soap. How cool is that? How freaking cool is that? Look at that. Ah, the good old days. Let's pull up the aftershave. This is the aftershave, 100 mils. It is also sealed. Oh man, what a steal I got. I'm not even going to tell you guys the price. They sell aftershave for more than I got this whole set for. And then the leather pouch is just freaking cool. So, long story short, is it dries down to this animalic civet, one of the most beautiful civets I've ever smelled, ever. I mean, it's up there with my favorite civets. You could put it with Ungaro Pour L'Homme 2, you could put it with Koros, you could put it with, I mean, they're different types of civets when you smell them. But this is right up there with the best executions of civet I've ever smelled. I'm going to decant this tonight and test it. So, what a find. I mean, for me, as a vintage hunter, this is a find. And a little bit evaporated, obviously, but I don't care. I'm happy to have some juice. And can you imagine rocking the aftershave, going to work smelling like this nowadays? Oh, man, I can't wait. I love it. Love it. Okay, so that's one. This next one I don't think is going to be as exciting, but let's give it the old college try. Okay, this is, wow. This, oh my God, this is dusty. Look how dusty this is. There's like literal dust on the top of this. Where did this come from? This was supposed to be from England. I purchased this. This is a vintage bottle of Richard James Savile Row. And the vintage packaging is in the white looking box like this. There's a newer version, which I hear you don't want. And what it looks like is, it looks like the packaging comes in this almost like rainbow box. Okay, so when if you look up this fragrance, it's almost like this rainbow box. And apparently that's the white box is the one that you want. So this exuberant fragrance derives its freshness from Italian bergamot and mandarin, clean starched shirt accord, fresh Chinese ginger, living green tea leaves, and petitgrain citronella. Tunisian rosemary and Egyptian basil oil excite the senses with a peppery, clean feeling. A melange of spices and florals, including Guatemalan cardamom, and coriander seed oils, evening dew, tuberose, lily of the valley, Moroccan rose, and lavender absolute add lush warmth, keeping the fragrance grounded in classic masculinity. Soft suede, Indonesian patchouli, Indian sandalwood, tobacco absolute, amber, Haitian vetiver, sensual musk, and oak moss. Now, 80%, 80 proof, made in Italy, distributed by Juniper, wow, RH161XQ UK. Wow, okay, good stuff, very interesting. So, this was apparently recommended to me on a stream that I did the other day, and we were talking about leathers, and someone mentioned this, and I said, you know what? Okay, I'm a sucker for leathers. What can I say? Cool little bottle. It looks like the Halston Z. It looks like a version with a cap and a base of the Halston Z14 MF06. MF06. All right, everything looks to be on the up and up. Good stuff. All right, I'm happy to have this. Richard James Seville Row. So you will be hearing about this on the channel. Does this writing seem off, or is this just the way it is? Or am I losing my mind here? Seems a little off-centered, doesn't it? Oh well. Interesting stuff. Cannot wait to try it. So that will be, I guess, a video in and of itself. We'll put the box over here. Man, this box was dusty. I wonder where it sat. There was dust all over this box. Probably in some warehouse somewhere. Okay, so let's talk about why we're here. Pacoma Gatsby. Now, first of all, Rich Mitch did a video today, and I'm going to reference it a couple times today in this video, because first thing he said something that I usually never say, but I think I should say it occasionally, because I'm starting to attract more and more people to the channel, and I think some people need to remember that I am not a professional, I'm not a trained nose, I'm just a guy who loves fragrance, okay? So this is just my opinion, this is just my initial impression. I do want to put a lot of these out. I want to put my takes on these type of fragrances out, because I want to build a little bit of like a library on my thoughts on as many fragrances as I can for you guys. And I'll go anywhere, like you guys saw. Yesterday we talked about everything from Chanel's to Eros by Versace, which I know is a joke, but someone sent me a sample, so I said, screw it, I'll talk about it, you know? And so, but keep in mind, I am not a professional nose by any stretch of the imagination. I am just a perfume lover that wants to share my passion with you guys. So, if you've never smelled Gatsby, how would I describe this to you? Well, first of all, Gatsby opens up with one of the most beautiful, sweet executions of masculine honey I've ever smelled. Ever, okay? It is up there instantly with my favorite honey scents. And so, if you know the 80s style honey frags that I love, you're instantly in the ballpark. So if you know stuff like Hugo Boss, all right, Hugo Boss #1. This bad boy right here, this is the older bottle without the #1 on it, but I've got 3 of these now. And I'm very glad to have them, because it's starting to get harder and harder to find. Oh, okay, so this is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. This is in my top 10 of all time, period. But if you know Hugo Boss #1, you're going to instantly be in the ballpark, because it does have this honey-like accord, but it does not have it doesn't have the pissiness of Hugo Boss #1. So Hugo Boss #1 opens up much more pissy, whereas Pacoma Gatsby has this 80s masculine animalic honey minus the piss, okay? That's the best way I can describe the opening. It literally is a beautiful animalic honey opening that is slightly sweet, but never too much, never too sweet. This is a pure 80s masculine fragrance, my favorite decade in perfumery, okay? And the first thing you'll notice with this somewhat slightly sweet masculine honey is booze. There's a little bit of a boozy accord, but it's in the background. If I had to guess, I would guess it was maybe a very tiny touch of cognac. Maybe. I don't know for sure, but the reason I say cognac, and the reason I'm guessing cognac, is because there is a fragrance that I own that came out in the early 90s that has a opening that somewhat reminds me of the way that the honeyed opening of Gatsby smells like, and it's this. It is Escada Pour Homme. Okay, now this is one of my favorite fragrances of all time. This is the Eau de Toilette. And I am searching high and low for the Eau de Parfum. It does not exist. I mean, it is literally, they must have done a very, they must have done a run of the Eau de Parfum for a very small amount of time, and then that was it. Because I can't find the Eau de Parfum anywhere, no matter how hard I look. But if you know the way that Escada Pour Homme has this little bit of cognac in the opening, slight orange touch, there's this orangey feel when you first spray, and imagine you're smelling the cognac from Escada Pour Homme, and if you haven't smelled this fragrance, no worries, okay? I mean, look at the color of the juice. That's the little bit how the fragrance smells when you first smell it. And many of these fragrances will have this orangey, honeyed, cognac, you know, resinous vibe, spicy resinous vibe. And so, by the way, this is an 8-hour dry down right here. And this is a 3-hour dry down right here. And so, I've got to experience the fragrance a couple times today, from start to hours into the dry down. And so from memory, here's how I would recreate this scent. So it has that somewhat sweet animalic honey minus the pissiness. So remove the pissiness from Boss No. 1 and you're kind of in the ballpark. Add some sort of slight booziness to it. Now, again, I can't say that it is cognac because I don't know, but there is this somewhat boozy quality to the honey for some reason. You know, it almost feels like they made like honey wine or something, you know, this boozy, resinous, somewhat spicy. Maybe there's some like pimento. Maybe there's like some pimento. But you don't get the green aspects of Boss No. 1. Boss No. 1 also opens with this like green tarragon, and it opens with basil and some fruity green apple. It's almost like you're getting a ghost of a fruit. Like, maybe it seems like there's a slight fruit accord there, but you can't quite pin it down. Maybe it seems like there's a slight boozy accord there, but you can't quite pin it down. It's really focusing on the honeyed animalic aspect in the opening, and I love that. I absolutely love it. I would love for a niche house or something to put something like this out today. This is why I love vintage perfume so much, is very few niche houses get me this excited nowadays. Most stuff I smell, it's like, you know, there's this, but there's this. The fragrance, the ingredients don't smell so high quality. They kind of smell synthetic or whatever it is, right? Or maybe the price is outlandish if it's something I really like. Speaking of price outlandish, just while my brain is bouncing all around, someone yesterday mentioned one of my favorite leathers of all time, which is Roja's Great Britain, is no longer on the Roja website. It is completely off. And they were like, is it discontinued? And I was like, I have no clue. So I went to go look for myself. Sure enough, it is off the website. It's not there at all. So if you have been contemplating a bottle of Great Britain, I would urge you to move. Move fast. Because it's not like it was like sold out. It's like totally off the website. Gone. But anyways, just, you know, speaking of overpriced fragrances that are good, you know, obviously any fragrance that's $2 a bottle is way overpriced. No matter how good the perfume is, no perfume is worth $2 a bottle to me. It's just, that's all marketing, and they're trying to, you know, cater to a certain population, a certain class of people. But very few, even high-end fragrances, like, you know, the Rojas, the Amouages, the, you know, high-end brands that you can name, Very few fragrances will make me feel like these vintage fragrances do. There's just something about this DNA, this style, that really touches me, right? And so another fragrance from the 80s that if you're a lover of vintage perfumes, I just want to show you this boozy, honey-like accord that will kind of get you in, the ballpark of what you're kind of smelling with Gatsby. Lapidus Pour Homme. Okay, so if you like this, now this is a little bit different because there's definitely fruit here. There's pineapple. The focus isn't just on the honey. You know, there's even more going on in the top with Lapidus Pour Homme. There's that tobacco, which is much more prevalent with Lapidus Pour Homme. And there's definitely that green touch, which is missing. But one thing I should mention about Gatsby, and one of the reasons why I'm just kind of going back and forth and showing you guys some things that it reminds me of, is there's no note listing. Normally, I will give you guys the note listing and we kind of talk about it. I can't do that with this. There's no note listing on Parfumo, and there's no note listing on base notes. Let me check Fragrantica. I did not check Fragrantica, but let's just check it and see. Fragrantica, let's see, Gatsby. Gatsby. Pacoma Gatsby. There is a note listing on Fragrantica, but it's just honey, spicy notes. Resins, fruity notes. So I did mention there was a hint of something fruity. And woody notes. So that's not very much help, I'll tell you that right now. And it's not even in a pyramid, it's just a listing of quick notes. So from memory, let me see if I can continue to walk you through this. So we're sliding into some of my favorite fragrances of all time. Lapidus Pour Homme, Escada Pour Homme with the booziness, and Boss No. 1 with that animalic honey. We're in Hall of Fame Ram territory here, okay? The other one that you might think a little bit of because of the honey is Marbert Man. Okay, so these are the big four. There's actually one fragrance that it is even closer to. It's even closer to another fragrance. I'm going to save it for the end of the review. Because if you have one, it may be a little bit redundant to have both if you're not a collector. For me, as a vintage collector, I want this. I want a full bottle of this. I want a 50 or 100 ml bottle. It's that good. I mean, it really is, and it's right in my wheelhouse. And how no one talks about this is a little bit of a shock to me. And I guess this just goes to show how many perfumes are out there that it's so easy for one to just get lost, you know, in the ethosphere. No influencer talks about it. I'm not an influencer. I'm just a guy who gets on here and talks about what I love. But no one, you know, who is big into vintage fragrances happens to pick something like this up, and it just goes, you know, it just goes missing. It just goes, you know, it gets overlooked. Or there's so little of it made that it is, you know, it's very rare and hard for people to find. I know I tried to see if Anouge had some at Enchante. He didn't. He did not have any. And so, yeah, so that's kind of the opening. Now, one thing that you will notice is there is this honeyed, spicy, resinous aspect, like I said, that's very close to some popular fragrances. But one thing that is very similar to many of the scents that I mentioned, Lapidus Pour Homme has it, Boss No. 1 has it, Escada Pour Homme has it, is the note of lavender. Okay, so this is a big, I think, note in Gatsby. Because even though the focus is so heavily on that honey, I think it's the lavender mixed with whatever, you know, floral heart is in the fragrance. Maybe a slight touch of patchouli, maybe not. I can't really say I pick out patchouli, but it almost has this, you know, patchouli gives a fragrance this depth, this, you know, I don't know how to describe it, this, almost this heft, you know, like if you threw a, you know, like if you threw a fragrance that didn't have patchouli in the water, it would float. And if you threw one that did have patchouli in the water, it would sink, right? That's the way I think about patchouli. And this one would definitely sink. It has it has that heft coming from somewhere, whether it's amber, you know, whether it's a mixture of amber, which we'll talk about when we get to the base, or whether it's patchouli, I don't know, but there feels like there's something there. So again, I'm trying to reconstruct this backwards for you guys, and it's very hard without the note listing in front of me. So I'm guessing on some of this stuff. Keep that in mind. This is a guess. This is my guesstimate, okay? So the lavender, you know, if you watched Rich Mitch, he did a review today. My brother from another mother across the pond, Rich Mitch, he did a review of Eau Noir today. And in Eau Noir, he mentioned the herbal lavender in the top. And he mentioned this herbal feel, but this, you know, thickness to the fragrance behind the herbal lavender. And there's something very similar going on here, but instead of Eau Noir using like licorice and coffee and, you know, immortelle, this uses what feels like honey and amber and spices. So the lavender, the herbal top that you get in the very beginning, along with the spicy resinous honey lasts, okay? It really dries down, very similar to how it starts. There's not much transition in this fragrance. Like I said, this is an 8-hour dry down, and it smells very similar to how it smelled at hour 1. Just a little bit, you know, a little more closer to the skin, but the smell itself has not changed very much. It's a very linear scent, number 1. And so number 2, that herbal lavender top, I was kind of thinking what notes might give off this lavender herbal vibe. Maybe it's not lavender. Maybe it's something like sage or thyme, like those 2 notes show up in Eau Noir. I could totally see something like that being here. I don't think it's, you know, this basil tarragon like in Boss Number 1. I don't think it's that. It doesn't give off the same vibe. Doesn't give off that green artemisia like feeling of tarragon. And so, you know, I'm guessing it's something like sage or thyme. And I'm also guessing maybe it's lavender. So think about the note tree. Lavender, you get that herbal, traditionally masculine. This is a very traditionally masculine scent. Even though it has that focus on that animalic honey, which stays throughout the entire life of the fragrance. It's here 8 hours later. Okay, it's here 8 hours later. That animalic, let me just hit myself with a fresh spray just so I can get the brand new opening again, shall we? Let's do a fresh spray. So good. This is so good. I love it. Absolutely love it. So you get that herbal, traditionally masculine lavender feeling from the opening is what it smells like to me. With spices, okay? The spices are big. They don't list what the spices are, so I don't know. But, you know, there is this big spicy vibe to the fragrance. And the other thing that I think keeps the fragrance intact, if you will, is there is this floral heart, traditional floral heart, which many fragrances have, even the old school masculines, especially the ones towards the end of the 80s. Big floral hearts for masculine fragrances by the end of the 80s were really starting to make a comeback. So my guess is this has some sort of spicy carnation. That's maybe where some of the spicy feel is coming from. And maybe just like a traditional floral heart, okay? Maybe like rose, jasmine, and whatever. Rose, jasmine, and iris or something like that. I don't necessarily smell iris, so I don't think it's iris. But some sort of traditional floral heart, okay? And the tobacco, if there is tobacco, it's really toned down. It really doesn't feel like there's very much tobacco here. If there is, it's very, very light compared to some of the tobacco and some of these other fragrances, okay? So the floral heart with the spicy carnation, I think kind of keeps everything intact. And then you get to the dry down. And that's where I think you get a load of oak moss or some sort of moss. Probably oak moss. This is the 80s after all. So you get a load of oak moss. And it definitely has this texture. And, you know, oak moss has a texture to it. It really feels like you're rubbing your hand on the moss growing on the side of the tree. It adds this depth to the fragrance. It makes a fragrance 2D become 3D. And it always feels to me like I'm standing inside of the tree, you know, and the moss is growing all around me, and it's dark and enclosed, right? And you can smell kind of the earthiness from the inside of the tree. That's what oak moss feels like to me. And there's a little bit of that in the base. But you know what? There's also, interestingly enough, there's also this resinous vibe to the base. So I'm guessing there's like this benzoin, amber use, and maybe some labdanum. That's one of the missing links, I think, that potentially could be the key to this. Because labdanum can sometimes give off this, like, leathery vibe. It can give off this ambery, leathery vibe. And there is this ambery, leathery vibe to this. Would not surprise me at all if there was labdanum in this. Imagine honeyed flavor labdanum. Actually, that's a great comparison, or a great representation for this scent. Honey flavored labdanum is perfect for this. Yeah, it really is. And it is such a beautiful perfume. I can't believe no one talks about this. I mean, granted, it's going to take a very specific type of person to enjoy this, because people that like modern fragrances will think this is too vintage. And, you know, it's going to take someone who appreciates the vintage fragrances. I'll tell you that right now. But if that's you and you love honey, okay, this has to be on your list. Now, before you run out and go buy your bottle, let me buy mine. But I'll tell you what, I'm a big fan of Gatsby, huge fan. And so it's one that I think deserves more light. You know, I hype whatever the hell I want, right? I just hype stuff that I like. But there is something I want to talk about. You know, the honey in the base. An image came to mind today while I was wearing this. Listening, reading, smelling it dry down. And you know what it reminded me of? Once the amber and the labdanum in the base really started to kick in, it reminded me of, you ever seen like a honeycomb, and you know, you ever like seen honey flow over one of those combs, right? Goes into the dips and it kind of fills it all in, and then it continues to flow over the comb. That's the feeling that this fragrance gives me in the base. This leathery honeycomb. A perfect analogy would be this piece of leather with a honeycomb on top and the honey flowing over the honeycomb onto the leather. That would be a perfect analogy for the base of Gatsby. So, as someone that's kind of flying blind here without the note tree, I'm a little bit at a disadvantage, but that's the best I could do. If you've tried Gatsby, I'd love to hear your thoughts. But first, there is one fragrance that I want to tell you that it's the closest to, okay? And if you like this perfume, I would urge you to go get Gatsby, okay? Just go get it. It's very, very close. Almost 1 for 1, okay? Not exactly, but almost 1 for 1. And this fragrance came out in 1986. This fragrance came out a year before Gatsby. So I think this was the inspiration. I really do. This is called MCM Success. Okay, now this is a new addition to my collection. I got this from Anouge, and Anouge has, I think Anouge still has some bottles. The little bird right here, logo, is kind of cool because it's right here at the bottom. I like the little detail they used to do back in the day. It's good stuff. So this fragrance is very close. I think the tobacco is a little bit more. in this, okay? So if you like honey tobacco, this is maybe a grail fragrance for you. Again, another fragrance no one talks about or not enough people talk about. MCM Success is stunning. And maybe the woods are also a little more turned up in this, whereas the woods in Gatsby feel toned down. So the tobacco is a little more toned up. The woods are a little more toned up. And maybe the leather in the base is a little more toned up. But other than that, I mean, they are so goddamn close. I mean, right there. These two are long-lost brothers, okay? MCM Success and Gatsby are long-lost brothers. And so I am definitely down to get a full bottle of Gatsby. Now it's just a matter of finding it. But anyways, I hope you guys appreciated this. There's almost no talk about this perfume online, which is fine. I love doing these videos where no one's talking about them. It's so good. So good. As a honey lover, this is heaven. There have been very few days as of late, because I've been testing a lot of new fragrances lately, where I have enjoyed something as much as this. So, do let me know what you think. Let me know if you tried Gatsby. Let me know if you've tried anything from Pacoma. I've never even really heard anyone talk about the house. This Pacoma Gatsby. I just kind of decanted this 4 ml into here. Probably a waste, but if I ever get a big bottle, I can then use this again. And so yes, thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. Appreciate it, guys. Cheers, and I'll see you again tomorrow with another video. Bye now.